today for a walk and talk, and we're back on the YouTube, so we figured we would live stream. And I want to talk about two relatively large stories. Obviously, the first one much more important than the second, but there is a big bust we're going to go over much more later today, and I'm hoping that some of my audience can look into it as well. So the story is that the FBI, Interpol, just recently did a huge bust on organized crime via an app which they preloaded on a bunch of quote-unquote ghost phones that were specially, given software. Now, for those that don't know, right now if you have a certain device, have options, I believe, of 3 separate operating systems that supposedly get rid of a lot of the spying capabilities of your device. Now, I say supposedly because this messaging app that was put on these phones called Anom, it is not quite clear how they were put on in the first place, since, organized crime isn't going to take pallets of, say, Google Pixels, which is the most popular and compatible device with a lot of these operating systems, which are based in Android anyway, by the way. The 2 main ones, Lineage OS. Now, James Corbett has done an interview with an individual who sells a large variety of brands of Lineage OS phones. Okay, so you can find those there. And essentially what he'll tell you is that, yes, it's de-Googled from the G apps and things like that, but you can still run all your other apps on it, and to either feed it disinformation or create dummy accounts, etc., etc. So certainly not perfect. I think the other one is Callisto that's out there. And then the big one, the one that I'm actually really looking into and will probably end up doing a review on in the near future, because I actually, before this, bit the bullet and bought myself a device, a Google Pixel 4 XL, and had planned to load graphene on it. I still am going to do that. I'm going to load graphene on it. And the other thing is, I'm pretty tech savvy, so I probably won't brick my device. Now, does that mean that organized crime couldn't hire somebody that was tech savvy? No, but you'd have to trust the person too, okay? Because when you get into it, there are all sorts of these back doors on these devices, right? So, look, I'm all down with the idea that your device is your device, and you should be secure in your persons and properties. And that if you are just using a regular device like I am, or an iPhone, etc., look, you got to understand that every single piece of communication that you do on there and more is tracked, traced, and database. And what do I mean and more? So let's say you're on the Instagram and you've taken one of your patented selfies, number 364 in about 1,000 a day. You only post about 5. Every single one that you were upset with, that you looked at, that you deleted, that you didn't post, not only did they see that, but then they see your reaction to it and why maybe you use this one and not that one. That's a reality. If you haven't noticed, I'm not Mr. Selfie School. I think it's a ridiculous thing. I try to keep most of my personal life quite personal. Okay, so this is really just a preview video for us to discuss this Anom software. Trying to call me, got to decline that. Really want to dig into this story. I would love to see how they got these phones. Did they get them directly from Google? Did they get them through a third-party distributor? How did they load the software? How did they redistribute them? Those things are extremely important. Extremely important. So if anybody has that information right now, that's something that I would encourage you to go check out. Now, the other story that a lot of people are sending me, including Big Fish sent it to me, I think today. But I got sent it on my group message yesterday. And as a lot of you know, I like the marijuana. I'm a big fan of it. I'm not a big enough fan of it that I'm going to go roll my sleeve up in Washington State just to get some free joint action. So yes, in Washington State, they are now offering people free joints. Let me repeat that. Free joints to take the old boop boop. Can you imagine trying to sell this thing without a global propaganda campaign? My God. Anything they can do. Free booze. Oh, here's your Sam Adams Cash App. Lotteries. Free college lotteries. And now, hey, how about a joint on us? How about a little jointski and hutch? So, I mean, if you think about this, it is like the wildest thing in the world to realize. I don't think I've been down this way before. To realize that they are now incentivizing injections into your body via military-industrial complex by giving you a free sample of what used to be the devil's lettuce, right? That's how twisted and upside down we are today. You know, after how many years of demonizing, right? Of straight up demonizing marijuana until they could make a profit on it, until they could regulate it to the manner that the predator class would control the majority of it. And people like John Boehner could go tour, right? Good old John Boehner. If you don't know about that, John Boehner, you know, one of those big crying conservatives, for the last few years has kind of been on tour telling people how they can capitalize on the marijuana market. What? Huh? And, you know, in particular, in New York, when I was looking into legalized marijuana and how to possibly get into that, as, yeah, Cuomo decriminalized some of it, but it was a huge business to get into. And I was wondering if it would be accessible to the average person. No, of course it was not. And what do I mean? Well, before any of this happened and before you could get like a commercial license to sell marijuana recreationally, the only license that you could get for a dispensary was for medical, okay? And the price tag, I believe, was either $10,000 or $15,000 non-refundable to apply, but then another $250,000 that you had to put up that was refundable if they denied you. So in other words, they get their 10, 15 grand no matter what. But if they decide that they're going to allow you to become a dispensary with every regulation that you could imagine, you had to pay $250,000. And if you don't realize, that just keeps the average person out from starting a business. Number one, even if you were able to come up with that capital, they could deny you. And, you know, these are the types of things that people really don't talk about that are a problem. You know, people want to dwell on, quote unquote, systemic racism. What about systemic classism? Right? What about keeping those out that do have a business plan, that could utilize those tools to become successful, to empower their family? You know, Biden keeps talking about generational wealth and building generational wealth. He doesn't believe that. First of all, he doesn't believe much because he can barely speak or think or talk, right? That's not really debatable. Zombie Joe, at his best right now, is hyped up on amphetamines and reading off a teleprompter, okay? And the last thing these people want, if you haven't noticed the systems we're under, is generational wealth or independence of any kind. They want you subservient. They want you on a UBI. They want you to lock down when they tell you. They want you to wear a mask when they tell you. They want you to inject things into your body when they tell you. Okay? And if you've built independent wealth that's generational, that means you and your family will not be beholden to these monstrosities. Imagine that. Imagine that. And that's the big secret. He's sitting here promising all of these families that have had hardships generationally, and some of that is because of racism, right? We can't lie and act like there is no racism in this country or the world. And that the civil rights movement is a very real thing, in the 50s, 60s, and yes, 70s as well, where there were a lot of, how do I say this, obstacles in the way of honest, hardworking people of all sorts of colors, period. And I think a lot of that got better progressively from the 80s to the 90s and even into the early 2000s. And now it's only rearing its ugly head to divide people, because it's not just minorities that are struggling. We got almost half the population in this country, if not more, on some type of government subsidy social service program. You don't think that's by design? You think a guy that's pushed these things forever, who's selling generational wealth to minority families and black people, is going to follow through with that promise? Get the fuck out of here. Not a chance. Not a chance. So, guys, like I said, we're still going to do the Laura Ingraham clips. I promise that. If you want to head over to the Rockfin, I have an exclusive interview where I may cut up a couple parts with Tristan Haggard, who does Primal Health. His YouTube channel, I think, right now is not accessible, but he is on Rockfin as well. We talked for about an hour about various things. Tried to keep it pretty light. And at the same time, watched a section of my film, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined. So, thumbs it up, subscribe, share, and make that Rockfin account. We're almost to 18,000 followers. I think we just need a little bit over 100. So if you're watching this and you want to go watch a great free interview, I would encourage you to go over there. Now, if you do make the premium account, you'll get to see the entire Bryan Callen, Sam Tripoli 9/11 video, which is about an hour and 44 minutes. I should be scheduled to go back on that show tomorrow, and I'm pretty excited about it. Anybody that's watched that entire program, I think, has gotten a better idea of how maybe you can discuss some of these very, very hard topics with people that are going to be competitive, that do not buy into your same thought process, and that's fine. I mean, again, I'm not here to preach to the choir. I want people to check out Fabled Enemies. I want people to check out Loose Change Final Cut. I want people to check out Shade the Motion Picture and Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, right? And let me just shout out to some of you trolls out there. You loser trolls, because you are losers. You've done nothing with your lives. You love to try to stir shit up, make accusations that are not true, and basically you have a mindset that is so controlled and so small, you can't wait to troll on behalf of your warped belief system. And what am I talking about? So many people saw the headline of my 20-minute excerpt of an hour and 45-minute broadcast and had to say something, cool, bro, how about Israel? How about I talked about Israel for about a half an hour on that show? How about the 20-minute segment in my film Fabled Enemies from 2008? How about I've never denied any kind of Israeli role there? But you trolls that are total losers, I mean, you're fucking losers, okay? Can't wait as soon as you see a thumbnail like that to try to be accusatory, right? To try to act like I'm covering something up. You're losers. Listen, take a good hard look in the mirror, realize you're a loser, and then say, how do I become not a loser? What do I do? What goal do I set for myself today? What information do I look up? Instead of trolling, what kind of content do I decide to make so that people check it out? I mean, it's just a suggestion, other than trolling people that are trying to do the right thing and put out real information and reach other people. You want to sit back and be a loser? Maybe you should go get your free joint over at Washington State and to roll up your arm for a little shot, little boop boop. That's all. So guys, I'm going to cut this one off. Again, go check out the Tristan Haggard interview. I love you. Thanks for joining me. And make sure to make that free Rockfin account. And if you do get that premium subscription, remember, you don't just get the Conspiracy Social Club interview over at their channel. You get everybody's stuff when you endorse Jason Bermas. Guys, I love you, and I'll see you on the flip side.